Turning Point USA is having their big meetup of only the weirdest creeps in the country, and head creep perhaps today, Marjorie Greene, who wants to really stick it to Joe Biden. And I'm not sure that's really what she's doing. Take a look at this.
Lyndon B. Johnson is very similar to Joe Biden. How are they the same? They're both Democrat socialist. Lyndon B. Johnson was the majority leader in the Senate. Does that sound familiar? He was vice president to Kennedy. Joe was vice president to Obama. He was appointed as the president after JFK was assassinated, then he was elected. His big socialist programs were the Great Society. The Great Society were big government programs to address education, medical care, urban problems, rural poverty, transportation, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and welfare, the Office of Economic Opportunity, and big labor and labor unions.
Okay, so there's a couple of big problems there, as you're probably already able to tell. The more substantive one is when you say he's terrible, he wants to destroy the country, and then you just list all of the most awesome things that particularly conservatives in rural areas would love to have. We'll get to that in just a sec. I want to start off with though, she apparently figured out what Wikipedia is, like for the first time. So she was just reading facts about LBJ.
Yeah.
And she was like, I think the idea was supposed to be, look at all of like the weird overlaps between them, okay? Which wouldn't prove anything except to a conspiracist. But what she decided to do was she listed the things that she thinks are overlaps, but are not. Like she said, he was the majority leader in the Senate. Does that remind you of anyone?
No.
Well, Chuck Schumer, what point are you making? Biden was never the majority leader of the Senate. He was in the Senate. So's Ted Cruz. What point are you making? And then she's like, LBJ was appointed after this. Yeah, but Biden won the election. That's not a similarity. I don't understand what point you're trying to make about Biden here. And then, of course, this is substance. Where do you want to start, Francesca?
Well, I just love when right wingers forget to like red wash Wikipedia before they spout it. You know, like she should have just gone in there and crossed off like Medicare, Medicaid, and things that like the Republican base, just like all American people, are really, really into, and then just went to the unions. She was trying to stick the landing as if like, oh wait, this all sounds good. I mean, yeah, big labor, that's bad, right? Why not talk about like the civil rights movement? You know, that could have helped. And some of the signing in the Civil Rights Act, that would have probably been something that their base at Turning Points is against. But anyway, I don't know. We all learned something. That's good. They learned something.
Some facts. Yeah. Also, by the way, the few things that she did assert as actual similarities between them are not true. Like, you can't just say LBJ and Biden are both Democratic socialists. No, they're not. I kind of think you have to ask the Democratic socialists whether those two men deserve to be a part of that group, and neither of them are. They were both Democrats, I guess. Case proven. They're definitely lizards. I think that's what's going on. But she literally she was saying like Medicaid and like some sort of office of like rural issues. Like this is what people want. Now we're gonna go on to a little bit more of this in a sec, but I do also want to throw out the possibility that one of two things is happening here. It's very easy to just, and most people on Twitter, their reaction is, she's an absolute moron. And look, I get why you might jump to that. I do understand. It is possible that she is just so stupid that she doesn't realize what she's doing here and listing all these positive things. But that's not the only potential explanation. The other is that she is not stupid, she is savvy, and she understands better than we can that even that list of objectively good things is going to be read as a horror show by among the most unrepresentative bodies that can come together in America, which is a Turning Point USA audience. They really do believe none of this stuff should be done. Because after all, those programs that are so popular are popular amongst regular conservatives, regular Republicans. There are no regular anything in that auditorium.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of extreme. It's like sad fail sons, like that's all it is. Who like again, junior college dropouts, like Charlie Kirk himself. Like who is in that actual audience? You're exactly right. Again, this is back to the like, oh, MAGA really speaks to, the working people. No, they don't. They speak to, again, boat dads and their fail sons.
Yeah, real working Americans are keeling over in Texas because their water breaks were taken away. Those are real working Americans. They are not being represented by the Republicans. That much should be clear. Well, that said, let's see if she can recover in the second half of her little spiel. Let's go to that.
LBJ had the Great Society, but Joe Biden had Build Back Better, and he still is working on it. The largest public investment in social infrastructure and environmental programs that is actually finishing what FDR started, that LBJ expanded on, and Joe Biden is attempting to complete. Socialism.
I wish I could believe any of that. Yes, please, upon a star style, I want to believe that he is actually FDR 2.0, that he is actually like, look, I think that the standards have been set so low by some past Democratic presidents. Clinton, Obama had the ACA, but no massive, broad social spending program aside from that. Maybe Biden, just by virtue of like not a lot of competition, is the next step of the Great Society and FDR's programs and all that, the New Deal. Maybe he is, but she is giving him, I think, at least a good chunk more credit than he deserves. I think that she seems to really buy into the propaganda coming from some of like the most like bought in Biden people. I don't know, does that scare people, Francesca? Like, are they gonna hear what she just said and think that's the thing that needs to be stopped?
I feel like she's just like switched teams in this speech and is basically like, I wish Biden could speak like this, like, hey, LBJ, the Great Society, and I have Build Back Better. I'm gonna keep fighting for it. What's so funny about that, also to use it to scaremonger like the Republicans, is that Marjorie Greene and Republicans already killed Build Back Better, along with some Democrats. Let's be real, they just killed it. It's no longer a so-called threat to our, lifting our quality of life. It's dead. He doesn't talk about it anymore. Lyndon B. Johnson successfully implemented the Great Society. I mean, and then there's the American Rescue Plan, which Biden actually was able to implement, by the way, with zero help from Republicans. So I don't know, I'm curious if she continues it and continues to then be like, and we didn't vote for any aid to Americans in the time of global crisis because the pandemic isn't real, except for your uncle's no longer here. Like, I'm just, I don't know, like my brain, but I do kind of feel like people in the audience are like, hey, that sounds kind of good. So
maybe, look, they have online brain worse than anyone in the world in all of the worst ways. I get that, like, it is very difficult to not exist in one or more bubbles in the modern era. That's sort of the way things push you. That's the pressure that's put on you. And I am sure that us here, you watching, are in some bubbles. But I mean, their bubble is absolute madness. Like, I'm not gonna both sides the bubbles. Some bubbles are worse than other bubbles, and I think you're seeing some insanity there.
But these are the most popular programs ever, like Medicare and Medicaid. You talk to any Republican, you're like, do you like Joe Biden? They're like, no. Do you like Medicare and Medicaid? Yes. Did you know Republicans consistently try to gut it and like do away with it, privatize it and whatnot? Oh,
yeah.
That's it. That's the conversation.
And if that was the conversation, they would lose every election, which at the presidential level they basically do. So they don't talk about that. They talk about whether the candy mascot's effable. I mean, that's why we have the conversations we do as a country. Now that said, I do want to talk about a topic of quite a bit of substance. It's one of the most important foreign policy topics right now. The topic of Ukraine was something that they returned to quite often at the Turning Points USA little meetup. And they actually polled their audience about whether they support aid to Ukraine. And Charlie Kirk was very happy to say that the results were 95.8% said no. When will politicians learn that you can't tell voters what to believe? Well, first of all, if you actually believe that the audience at a Turning Point USA meetup is representative of anything, you're even dumber than you appear on your podcast, Charlie Kirk. But I don't believe that you actually think that. And I also don't believe that you even mean what you're saying in the second half of that sentence. When will politicians learn that you can't tell voters what to believe? I mean, you guys are desperately trying to propagandize to and manipulate your voters, and to some extent it actually works. I mean, not 96% of Republicans are opposed to the aid, it's nowhere near that, but more are opposed than there would have been if you hadn't been lying to them about Nazis and Zelensky and all that for the last year.